Is there going to be a board challenge imminent at Essendon? I'm just going to play you what Tom Morris has just recently reported on Channel 9.
Essendon power brokers have had enough with a board challenge set to occur after the club's season of woe. Live to Chief Football reporter Tom Morris with the exclusive details. Tom, good evening. The Bombers are turning on each other.
That's it, Clint. Tonight I can tell you a major board challenge is imminent at Essendon. Now, in the wake of an off-season of turmoil, key power brokers, including at least one former player, are preparing a movement which would oust Dave Barham as president and other directors too. Now, I've spoken to one of the key power brokers tonight who says this is not coterie driven and it's just a matter of when and not if the challenge takes place. There is a view that the club has been left rudderless and the Barham era has left a legacy of division, instability, player drainage and lost opportunity from this group of people. Now, Essendon declined to comment tonight, but this is definitely one to follow over the coming days. Now, meanwhile, Zach Merritt, their captain, was top.
Okay, so that is the news that's just been reported. So when I hear this, it just kind of makes my heart sink a little bit because you just need stability at the club at the moment. And we need the people, I think, who have been put into the positions that they're in to be able to carry out their job. Now, I'm not saying that at some point the hammer doesn't come down on everybody eventually. It does, eventually. But you need to let those people do their job. A lot of positions at the club have changed over the last 3 or 4 years. Pretty much every major position, right? The CEO, the coach, the high performance manager, the recruiting positions, everything has been changed at the club, and you've got to let those people get their plan through. Now, after a period of time, if things aren't working, then of course you move on. But I'll just give you an example. Damien Hardwick, right, was appointed at Richmond in 2010, I believe. He didn't win a final in his first 7 seasons as coach of Richmond. And there were people after 4 or 5 seasons calling him to be sacked. There was actually a movement to change the Richmond board at the end of the 2016 season. They'd finished 13th or something. They'd won 7 matches in the 2016 season, just suffered a 20-goal loss against Sydney in the last home and away round, and it looked like they were going nowhere. The group that was going to do that board challenge for Richmond ended up withdrawing, and they stayed with the current board. They stayed with the current coach, and Damien Hardwick won a premiership the next season in his 8th season in charge of Richmond. It took 8 years for that to happen. And there were people getting impatient there, thinking that it was never going to happen, but it did happen. But you need to stick with the people who are being paid to do the jobs that we've got them to do. You can't get rid of them after only a couple of seasons. Now, I admit when you're not fully in the inner sanctum, you don't know everything that's going on. But we've turned over now with the news that Laverty and Goldstein have been delisted, and with more to come, we're probably going to have turned over 30 players in the space of a little over 3 years. That's 3/4 of the list. Okay? Now, you don't achieve success overnight when you change 30 players around in less than in 3 to 4 seasons. It just doesn't happen. But you've got to let the coach, you've got to let the president, you've got to let these people do their jobs. Too often and for too long, this club has lived under the spectre, under the shadow of James Hird. I love James Hird as a player. I haven't been a fan of him in any other capacity. I'm not one of those Hird fanboys. There's still an element of the club that puts these players on pedestals, former players on pedestals like they're gods, as if for some reason, because you happen to wear, the Essendon jumper as opposed to another jumper and you were a champion player for that club, that somehow makes you suitable to be a coach of that club. It's just inane stuff. And we've got so many people that put these former champions on a almost, on a godlike status. And I don't know if Hird would be involved in this. We'll find out tomorrow. I'm narrating this at about 7:30 on Sunday night, so we'll find out. But we keep on hearing these talks about reinstating James Hird. That would be an absolute disaster. It would be the last thing we need. And if it is something like that, Hird just needs to go away, basically. And I'm not suggesting it is. We'll find out. I thought it was a big mistake 3 years ago that he applied for the coaching job. The nerve of him to apply for the coaching job after everything that's happened when he knows that we need to move on. And it's not that he couldn't have been a good coach at some point, but he knows that the club needs to move on, but he couldn't let his ego aside and had to apply for the coaching position, and the club rightly chose someone else. So the club needs to stick with the current plan. And yep, like I said, there is a time where you alter plans. There is a time where you say, this isn't working, we move on. But we've just had a season in which we've had 20 players injured. All right, we've had an entire team's worth of players injured. And no club could be competitive under those circumstances. And there's still some positives to come out of the season. We've had a lot of debutants in the year. I think a lot of them are going to be established players over the next few years. Brad Scott's found out quite a lot about the team, and he's going to find out a lot more as well next year. We've got a number of high picks in the draft. But as the Richmond position shows, you just need to, I would call it, you need to hold your nerve is what you need to do. You need to hold your nerve. Everybody thinks they've got the magic touch, but you've just got to hold your nerve and put your faith in the people who are in charge, that they can carry out the plan. All right, all these positions have been are relatively new. We've got a new Matthew Innes is in as high performance manager. Matt Rosa has only been there a short time as the main recruiter. And, it just would be too much of an upheaval. I get the argument that Barham is older and you might want a younger person in there, but that shouldn't really have anything to do with it. He's tried, at the very least, to facilitate quite a bit of change, and a lot of that change has happened. We haven't seen the results yet, but it's not surprising that we haven't seen the results yet. I mean, if you look at where our list is at and the amount of delistings and the amount of turnover on the list, when you're turning over 30 players, you're not going to get results overnight. So I would use the Richmond example as a blueprint, if you like, where the coach really achieved nothing for the first 6 or 7 years. And if you remember, for all the people bagging Brad Scott, every single Richmond no one thought Damien Hardwick was a good coach. And I know it's easy in retrospect to say, we all know no one thought it. No one thought it. Around 2015, 2016, there wouldn't be a single person that would have thought that Damien Hardwick would be on the same level as a Chris Scott or an Alistair Clarkson or something like that. 0 people. And then all of a sudden he wins 3 premierships and he's a genius. Well, he's not really a genius. He's the same guy he was when he was coaching Richmond in the mid-2000s. But Richmond, to their credit, stuck with the board. They stuck with the coach, and eventually the results follow. And I've never seen a successful club that doesn't have a stable board. It's probably the most important thing in a football club. I know you probably would think that it's the players and everything like that, but unless you've got a stable board, unless the management is stable, the rest of the club falters. That's just a fact. That's just the way it is. It's the same at every single club I've ever seen. And look, there'll be a time where everybody needs to move on at some point, but really, I'd say at this point, when we're sort of so, we're so close to getting everything set. All right, the results aren't there, but we're so close to, we got rid of Dodoro. We've got the new high performance manager. We've got a coach entering his 4th season. We just need to let these people do their job. So if there is a spill of the board, if there is a challenge, I personally hope it fails. And I just think this is not what we need at the moment. So what do you guys think? Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you do want change. And look, it's just an opinion, obviously, unless you're in the inner sanctum of the club. Who really knows? But I just think that at the moment we need stability, and we don't need more off-field changes when we've made so many changes already. We just need time to see the results come to fruition. That's my opinion. Anyway, just a quick video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, go Bombers.